Make work obsolete. This is something that society has tried to achieve ever since the Industrial Revolution. As you can see here, it is the ideal that we can go about our days doing whatever we like without the need to have to work. What is it that you do for a living, if I might ask? Coding. And what is it that you do that you like to do in your free time? Sports. And what is it that you do, if I may ask?
Right now I'm considering intending but I'm not in procurement.
In procurement. And what do you think you would like to change?
I'm still not sure. Exploring new options.
Okay. And what is it that you like to do in your free time?
Yoga, reading.
Very nice, very nice. How would it be if you could do more sports and you could do more yoga as much as you want without the need to have to go to work? How would such a world be? During the Industrial Revolution, we saw that it is possible to replace our work by the work of machines. But as always, it wasn't that straightforward. The machines assisted us, but they never replaced us completely, up to this day. The dream has never become a reality. We've built computers, robots, cars, airplanes, but we still have to work to supervise them, right? But this time in history is different. For the first time, humans have created machines and programs that are as close to human reasoning as ever. Today, for the first time in history, making work obsolete is within reach. So it is not a question of if, but a question of when. Today we still have to work 40 hours a week and be paid for that. But at some point in the future, we will have to work 0 hours a week and be paid maybe 2,000 euros monthly and have a place to live and food to eat. So the question is, what will this transition look like? Most probably, it won't be easy. We don't know how it looks like. We just know that at some point it will happen. Most probably, we will have systems that will assist us in our work more and more until they will do the work on their own. This is what we are here to discuss today. We will discuss how to pave our way to a world where work will no longer be needed. Hello and welcome. Today we will talk about useful generative AI tools that will save you hours in your work and make your life easier. We will first have a look at the responses that you provided in the sign-up form, and those will guide today's talk. And then we will see how the systems behind ChatGPT actually work, and this will help us write more useful prompts. Ultimately, we will look at tools, prompts, and generative AI applications that speed up daily work and help you relax. In a way, we will see how this transitionary period will be between today and when work will no longer be needed at all. And at the end, we will have an extensive Q&A session where you can ask me any questions you want about generative AI, and I'm very happy to answer. So first, let's have a look about you. These are the topics that you provided in the sign-up form about the tools that you're using. So most people were using ChatGPT. This is the biggest keyword here. Copilot and Gemini are the other two big ones. We have Claude, we have Perplexity, and then a couple of other smaller ones. So obviously ChatGPT is the big winner here. Hence we will focus on this tool. But the learnings that we will draw from this can be as well applied to the other systems as well, because they all work in the same way.
Is there a difference between Copilot and ChatGPT? Or are they the same thing with a different skin?
You could say it's the same thing with a different skin. So the underlying models are called LLMs, large language models, that we will discuss in short. The differences between these big players, so to speak, are very minor, right? So far, ChatGPT is the leading model from OpenAI, but for most tasks, for most real-world examples and use cases, they are very similar. And as time progresses, we assume that at some point they will become, let's say, a commodity. So they will be as ubiquitous as mobile phones or as ubiquitous as mobile internet, right? So in this sense, at some point they will converge, right? We will see more about this in a minute. Given this chart, you're already at a pretty advanced level. So there's not much I can tell you. Maybe we should just go grab a drink. But I think this is not what you came for today. You are already more advanced than most people who start out with generative AI today, right? So you're already at a quite, let's say, you're at a level where you already have some working experience with these systems and you're ready to take it to the next level. We will structure this masterclass as an interactive conversation. So please feel free at any time to stop me, like you did just now, and ask the question that you feel asking, right? So this is meant to be like a two-sided conversation. Also, the point with generative AI is that it's the first technology that reaches its maximum potential the better it is adapted to the use case. So it's different from mobile internet, from mobile phones, from social media, from all the, let's say, technological revolutions we had in the past 30 years. This is why it is very important to understand their use cases and how to adapt them to each individual's use case. And there was another question on the sign-up form. What were the repetitive tasks that stressed you out most? So again, here I compiled those that were the most burning and that appeared the most times. So the big winner here is emails. Email writing, email responding, and staying basically on top of email, right? Then we had, the next one was text, writing text, understanding text, summarizing text, text research, and so on. Then we had a big one was accounting as well. We have writing, we have content. So we will deal with this email topic today. And adjacent to that, we will have basically text, writing, and content will be very easily solvable as well, because they all fall into the same category of text understanding and text generation. And ultimately, the last question was, what would you like to learn about in this session? And the biggest winner, or let's say the winner here, was productivity. There were many, many things around productivity. How can you save time? How can you create more in less time or in the same time, right? Also, application and integrations were a big topic here, right? How can you take prompting? How can you take using these tools to the next level? So I would say let's dive straight in. Remember, you can always ask me anything. So first, let's have a look at how do large language models work. So again, large language models are the systems that are behind the tools like ChatGPT. And the way to think about these systems is that they always generate one word at a time. I'm very sure you saw this when you input something into ChatGPT, and it doesn't output everything at once. It outputs word after word after word, right? And this is due to the fact how these systems are built inside, okay? So the point here is that at any given moment in time, the system looks at everything that came before the moment you're at right now and computes the probability of the most likely next word. Or put in other words, it outputs the word that is most likely to come next, given everything before it, okay? And this text that comes before what is output right now is called context. So let's have a look at a little example here. Let's assume you're a copywriter that specializes in writing architecture ads, especially for building facades, okay? So let's say you ask ChatGPT, write an Instagram ad that's 150 characters long, and the ad will begin with, in the year 2024, in the autumn season, and then it needs to complete this, all right? So it will respond in the 2024 autumn season, and it has these 5 words as potential candidates, right? But given this prompt, each of these potential candidates, and we don't have just 5, we have all the candidates in the English language or any language for that matter, it assigns each one a specific probability, right? So for example, the word redefine has a probability 98.7%. The word turn, the probability 95.2%, and so on, right? If this prompt were only slightly different, these probabilities were completely different, all right? So in this case, it will choose the word redefine because it has the highest probability of being the next word. Then it will output redefine, and then it will repeat the whole process over again, okay? This happens at every moment where each word is output. Obviously, this happens very fast, right? Because there are supercomputers behind it and so on, so the text fills up really, really quickly. But if you can remember, when it first came out, it was quite slow. And sometimes when it experiences high workloads, because many people are using it, it also outputs it very slowly, right? Because at every moment in time, it recomputes, it reassesses everything that was behind it, okay? So let's have a look at this example inside of ChatGPT. So I input this prompt into ChatGPT. So again, this is the prompt we saw earlier. You're a copywriter specializing in architecture ads, write this. And then this is the text that it output. In the 2024 autumn season, redefine your building's identity and so on. So it chose the word redefine that I showed earlier. So it wasn't an invented example, okay? And then just for the sake of the example, I asked it, give me 5 other examples. So then it gave me 5 other examples. And if we look at the next word after season, it's either turn or transform or embrace or give and so on, all right? So let's go back. This is where I got these examples from. This is a constructed example. And obviously, the ChatGPT demo I showed you just now wouldn't show you the internal workings, right? But this is how it works at every moment. So what's the conclusion of this step? The conclusion is that everything that matters when you use these tools is what you put inside the context. This is everything that matters. And the better you do that, the better the output. Because the better the context, the better you tune these internal probabilities towards what you want to achieve. All right? This is the first big takeaway. This is where the term generative AI stems from. This is where generative comes from, because it's different from other AI systems, machine learning systems that were used for classification or prediction. Any questions so far?
I do have one.
Please.
So, I understand the example, I think it was very clear, but for example, sometimes you can put the same prompt over and over again and get different answers. So
Okay.
even if it's the same prompt and if it has the same context. So what would be the explanation behind that? Is there any randomness behind it?
Yeah, good point. This is a bit of a technical question. I'm trying to answer it as simply as possible. If you use ChatGPT via the developer endpoint, let's say, via the API, there are various parameters there. For example, one parameter is top P, or another parameter is the name is slipping right now. So it basically controls how much creativity the system has. So basically, these parameters are, let's say, they simulate randomness in a way. Without these parameters, the system would have been completely deterministic. As you said, each prompt would give the exact same output. But these parameters, they introduce a bit of, let's say, noise inside these internal probabilities, so that even if you input the same prompt, every time this parameter basically tunes how different these probabilities are. And there's even an option in the API where you can instruct it to always be deterministic. So you can tell it, okay, never introduce any fuzziness, always give me the same output. And this is important for tasks that require, let's say, very analytical tasks that always need to have the exact same output, which usually programmers need when they program a backend interface. So that's kind of the reason. Other questions?
Well, what's the need for that? Why have they programmed it as such?
You mean
For it to have the element of creativity and to come out different?
Yeah, because there are tasks, very creative tasks, right, where you need to generate, let's say, lots of ideas for maybe content creation, right? Or maybe you have one prompt and you want to know, for example, you want to write something new about a topic. And then you want to see what are all the possibilities that you can get out of that. And it's easier to repeat the same prompt over and over instead of tweaking it minimally just to make it output something different. So there are many use cases here. Some people even argue that this fuzziness parameter it also simulates a bit real intelligence, but let's be serious, these systems are not intelligent. They're just like intelligent parrots that output stuff based on the data they were trained on. So we're not there yet, right? We're not yet at real intelligence, right? But maybe the question is, do we need real intelligence to make work obsolete? Maybe not. Maybe we can live in a perfectly fine future where the machines are dumb, they don't take over, but they would still do all the work for us, right? But I think this is a conversation for after the talk when the bar opens. So I'm happy to hear your ideas there. So being conscious of time, let's continue. Let's have a bit of a look into the context, all right? So, because this is everything that matters. So everything that matters is, what do we put into the text that comes before the actual output, all right? So we said that writing the context can be viewed as setting internal probability values of the system, okay? It's also important to know that the text that the system outputs is also part of the context. Let me quickly go back to the ChatGPT window we had earlier, just to make this clear. This thing is also part of the context. It's not just our prompt. So everything that is inside this window, it may appear as a chat because it's made user-friendly for us to feel like it's a chat. But for ChatGPT, this is just one long big text. And ChatGPT will output the next word based on all of this long text, right? This is also important to understand. So ChatGPT's output also influences its own output. So it feeds itself, right? This is important to understand. Now let's go back to the context. This is why you can imagine the context as being an endless paper roll that comes out of the dot matrix printers. These are these printers that print invoices that make this funny noise, right? So they have like an endless paper roll inside. And the point here is that everything that comes out of the dot matrix printer is the context. And the dot matrix printer is the LLM or ChatGPT, okay? So ChatGPT prints all of these things, and then us humans come in and also write some stuff on it, and then we also then we say, okay, continue. And then not only humans, so everything that writes on this paper makes for valid context. This is important because this is how these integrations that we'll see in a moment work. So here we have a robotic arm that should symbolize that you can also have systems writing on the context, okay? This is kind of the mental model that you can adopt. So here again, we have a little example. Again, we have a look at the prompt with the copywriter who specializes in architecture. And we start with the initial prompt, all right? But this is a more complex example because it's not just us who write here. But let's say we connect a database here. And the database contains customer reviews of this architecture studio. So ultimately, we come up with this prompt. Then we get a review from a database. It's like, it was very pleasant. I was very pleased by Facades Limited Services. They're very fast. Okay? Or let's say we have documents that we upload. Maybe you know ChatGPT has this little attachment thing like in emails. It also puts it into the context because remember, for ChatGPT, everything is just one big text. It doesn't differentiate. But for us as humans, it seems like there's different entities, communicating there. Or you can have other services connected via API. For example, your CRM system, right? All of these can be connected via the backend of ChatGPT. This is how these integrations are being made. And then at the end, we continue to instruct the system to actually write the ads as we wish them to be. And the most advanced use case is if we have other LLMs writing. This is the output of the LLM that it generates itself, right? This is kind of the mental model. So the key takeaway from the second part is that ChatGPT doesn't differentiate who writes what on the context. For ChatGPT, everything is just one big piece of text. And then we can connect everything we want with it depending on the use case, right? Questions? All right. Maybe you've heard the formulation, ChatGPT's context window is 128,000 tokens long or whatever. Well, tokens is just a piece of a word. So think of it as 128,000 halves of a word, all right? Or basically, it's like about 90,000 words. That means that at any given moment, the prompt cannot be longer than 90,000 words. So if you chat with ChatGPT for long enough and you fill in that window until this context window breaks, you cannot chat with it anymore. You have to open a new chat, all right? But usually if you use it by hand, this won't happen. This happens if you attach big, large documents to it, right? So if you attach a book, for example, or 2 books. It cannot handle it. It will give you an error saying it's too much text. All right. Having said this, let's have a look into efficient ways to write prompts, which is called prompt engineering. It's a fancy name. It is fancier than what it actually does. Usually tech people like to call simple things fancy to seem important. I guess it's not just the tech people, but probably everyone. So prompt engineering is nothing else than the process of providing an LLM with the correct instructions such that it provides the right outputs. In other words, you tune that prompt as long as, or for as long as it needs to output the right thing. It means iterative refinement of the same prompt. And it's called engineering because you compare it, or you compare its output to the output before it. So you make like an iterative refinement stage here. So it gets there step by step. So now let's have a look at some prompting techniques that were used over and over again, such that it was worthwhile to give them their own name. So the first is called role task format. Okay? So people have found out that if they split prompts into different parts, the LLM provides better answers than if you put everything there at once. All right, so this is everything experimental. Now, let's go to a different example that will lead us into an integration later on. Let's say we want to write cold outreach messages to, let's say, LinkedIn contacts. This can be Facebook contacts, email contacts, whatever. So you first specify the role. You're a proficient copywriter who specializes this and this. Your task, draft an introduction message for a contact I've recently added. And then we say the format, okay, you must begin with a greeting, then include an impressive accomplishment, and so on. Again, let's have a quick look at how ChatGPT processes this. We have the exact same prompt that we saw right just now. And this is its output. And it is pretty neat because it adheres to what I told it to do. So hi, contact's name. By the way, it doesn't know its name or their name because I haven't mentioned it yet. Okay. Hi, contact's name. I noticed the impressive work you've done with mention this thing. It really stood out to me, and so and so. Okay. This is just the basic version. We will improve upon this. In order to make it better, we will include an actual profile in a bit. And the second thing that I want to explain here in terms of prompting, there are countless prompting techniques, but we don't have time for them today. Another one that's very important is the order in which you provide the information. So first you start with the examples, then you input the data, and then the instructions. Why? LLMs have something that is called recency bias. So this means that the information that you input last has a higher probability of influencing what comes out next than the information further up. It means if you input your data at the end, your output or the output of the LLM will be very close to that data, which is of no use, because you wanted to output something new. Also, if you put the examples last, it will output something that is very, very similar to those examples, but not new. But you want a blend. So thorough experimentation has shown that this order is the most efficient. Again, let's have a look at the same example that we had earlier in the role task format, but a bit with a different order. So we begin with the role, That's the first, and then we go with the example. So example data instruction, right? Remember earlier, it gave us like, let's go back to the ChatGPT thing. I told it how to format the output message, but I didn't tell it exactly how. And maybe I want to keep my own voice as a brand, right? So then I have to specify how the message actually looks like. It's not enough to just generically say it must begin with a greeting and so and so. So if we go back, here I give it an actual template. So I say your message must adhere to the following format. Hi, name, so that you're condense their job title. So here it will condense the job title. In this industry, I work and so and so and so. So this is the template it will adhere to. And then comes the data. This is the data. This is part of my own LinkedIn profile, but this could be anyone's LinkedIn profile, right? Remember, we want to create a personalized LinkedIn outreach message. And then lastly come the instructions. Draft an introduction message for this new contact on LinkedIn. And here I've included my name, my headline, my profile description, and so on. Now let's see what ChatGPT output. So again, here is the exact same prompt that I showed it earlier. Now let's see the output. So the output says, it adheres exactly to the template, exactly. It says, hi, Robert, saw that you're A, and it filled this part in. Remember the thing that we had earlier in the bracket? So it understood from my own profile that I was a founder in AI in consulting. Then comes the part that is generic, that is part of the template, that it copied exactly unchanged. And this is what we want, because we want to keep our brand tone. You caught my attention with, and then again, here comes the customized part. Your work at Next Operation, especially how you help blah, 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 save 80 hours per month through automation. So ChatGPT understood from my profile or from the profile of the person from LinkedIn how to extract this personalized line, and it fitted in perfectly with the rest of the message. So I think this is mind-blowing. This is mind-blowing. This is why I said earlier that for the first time in industrial history, we have a real shot at making work obsolete, because never ever in the past was this thing possible to be done by a machine. Never. And this is a task that was traditionally done by humans, right? And the only customization you used to have was just the name, which was more or less, it just copied the name from a database, and the job title, right? But sometimes the job title is, 50 words long. For some people, their LinkedIn job field is not long enough to write their whole life history inside of it, okay? But this thing is smart enough to distill that information into one word, right? You wouldn't go to somebody on LinkedIn and copy their whole title description into their greeting, because it would be longer than this message. But this thing is so smart that it can do what a human can, right? Because you would go there and you would understand that that person is whatever their title is in one word, all right? Any questions?
Well, I guess, so you input the information about the which LinkedIn profile it was yourself, manually?
Yes and no. This is where the integrations come in.
You can tell, so my question really is, so you could also tell it to actually go onto LinkedIn and then find everyone within this industry and give them each their own.
We are a bit short on time. Let's skip the rest and jump straight into this. I will show you a demo. That does exactly this. So let's jump straight into the semi-automated LinkedIn outreach workflow, okay? For this, we need 3 tools. We need a web scraper, that basically what it does, it goes to any website and copies the data from that website into a database or Excel sheet or whatever. Then we need an integration between that database or spreadsheet with ChatGPT. And ultimately, we need a good prompt. Let's go step by step. Let's say we want to scrape all the CEO and execs in IT and tech in Madrid. Okay? So here I have some filters. Here I have CEOs and founders. I search for people. The location is Madrid. Location is Madrid. Industry is tech. I won't go through all the filters. You can trust me, those are the filters. And then I have these people, all right? So then I open this extension here, which is called Bardeen. I will share the doc with you afterwards, okay? And the point with Bardeen is, it is a no-code automation tool. So this is how it looks like. I can modify it. So I will just show you briefly what it does. This is how you configure it. So it basically has 3 steps. It is very similar to Zapier, if you guys know Zapier. So the first component is the scraper that extracts the data from the LinkedIn people page. Then it will create a new tab in a spreadsheet that I specify in Google Sheets. And then it will copy the data from the scraper into that, all right? Let's see it in action. So I click this, add profiles into costume sheet, and it asks me max items. How many people do I want to scrape? Let's say 3, because we want to, it's a demo. Then I copy then the sheet is called demo something, Masterclass demo. And then the title of the sheet is La Vaca test. And then I say, okay, next. And then it shows me, okay, how do I want to map the fields? The profile URL will go into this column, the name, connection level, and so on, okay? So now let's see what it does. So now it scrapes the stuff in the background, which we cannot see, but now it's done. So now I can click view. And here I can see, here in the last sheet, I can basically see these people that we just saw earlier in a nice table. All right? So we see their name, their connection level, their headline, and their location. Right? This is the first step. Maybe we need a bit more information. Just for the sake of completion, we get the first 2. And we also introduce a new column called About. And here we just copy their About section. There's tricks how to copy this automatically as well. We won't go through this today. And then we get this person's About section, because usually people write their details in the About section, all right? Usually this is the strongest section you would have on LinkedIn. So let's just quickly resize this to have an overview. So now we have the About section. So now we have pretty much everything we need to craft a personalized outreach message, sorry. We have their name, we have their headline, so we know what they work at or on, and the About section knowing what their more or less highlights were in their career. So now let's go back and copy the prompt. There is one more thing. We need the integration between Google Sheets and ChatGPT, and this is called GPT for Sheets and Docs. You find this in the Google Sheets app plugin store. All right, there's a link in the document. You'll have access to that. And what it does, it introduces a new formula called GPT. So what this formula does, GPT, it takes everything that's inside of it, sends it to ChatGPT as a prompt, And whatever is output by ChatGPT is pulled back into the actual cell of the sheet, right? So it's just like any other formula, but it works with ChatGPT, right? That's the only difference. And then we use this prompt. Basically, we concatenate. So concatenate just takes different pieces of text and creates one big text out of it. We need it because here we need the cells of the data. So first, let's see how this looks like. Let's first start with the concatenate to make it easy. So to build the prompt. So now let's go back here and let's call this cell greeting message. Okay? And then here I will copy this formula. So basically here, I need to input the name. Is cell B2, looks good. So B2, sorry, you couldn't see it. So B2 is B2 over there, the name. I don't know, oh, wait a second. This is, I need to make it like this. Okay, now you can see it. So it takes the name is the cell B2, which is correct. The LinkedIn headline is E2, G2, and C2. I will have to check if this is correct. So I will put it here and say, okay, the name is B2. The headline is E2, correct. The additional information we don't have. And which one? D is the LinkedIn profile description, right? So obviously you can augment this with whatever you want. You can put hundreds of pieces of information here, right? But this is a simple example. So we have these things. Okay, so we see that there's already a prompt that was, so this is just the concatenation, meaning it's the text put together, okay? So let's put it, okay, because it's a formula, it won't, okay, let's copy this to a different cell just to show you that it works. I have to copy, paste special. Okay, now it works. So here we have it. This is the prompt, okay? So the prompt contains this generic stuff, and then it filled in the name from the cell, it filled in the headline, it filled in the profile description, the about section, okay? So this is the prompt. And now we wrap this inside the ChatGPT function, okay? So we go back, and instead of having just concatenate, we have GPT, and so we wrap the whole thing and send it to ChatGPT. Let's see what happens. Wait, what's happening here? Okay, I have to first enable this thing. So I have to go here and say enable GPT functions. You have to do this every time. So now it's working. Okay, now it's done. Now it's it opens this thing as well, but that's all right. So now it worked. So now I'll copy this again to a different cell, just for the sake of simplicity. So now we see a costume message for this person, just as we saw earlier with the generic example, right? So, hey, so-and-so, I saw you're a CEO in digital in London. Is this person a senior in digital in London? It's because my prompt was wrong. It's because my prompt was wrong. London was hard-coded. I have to say, because we search Madrid, so we have to say Madrid. But obviously, we can also take this from the cell. I mean, obviously, this is just an example, you get the point. So let's see again what happens. So this thing is being processed now. Okay, it's done. Let's see the content. I see you're a CEO in digital in Madrid. I work as a this and this. You caught my attention with your impressive track record of driving profit maximization through multifaceted business approaches. So this is the biggest highlight that this person had in their about section. All right. And now comes the magic. We all know why sheets are so nice, because we have this nice little button here. So what does this mean? I can drag it to 100. Oh, wait, this is not good. We we just filled in 2 people, okay? But you can drag it to endless, okay? And then we have the second person, just for the sake of simplicity, let's see what it was in here. So you're a CTO in tech in Madrid. I was this and that, this and that. You caught my attention with impressive record of winning over 10 international hackathons. Wow. Wow. Now, if that's not personalized, I don't know what is, right? I couldn't have done it better, okay? Now, here's the thing. Sometimes it will output, let's say, rubbish. It will output, this is a very neat summarization, but sometimes it would output like, I don't know, like almost 2 sentences worth of stuff. This is the point where the human part comes in. Don't send these things blindly. Don't send them out blindly, because people will instantly see that this is AI generated. Because we stumble into a different problem now, which is stuff starts to smell like AI. And there you have 2 options. Either you get to fine-tune your own model that sounds almost 100% like you, which is not a trivial task. It can be done. It is still, let's say, not easy. Maybe one day it will be. There's already a solution starting to come out to fine-tune your own model. Then you don't have the problem. But until then, please double-check every message you send out manually. But I'm telling you, if you just copy-paste this and check it, it's 10 times faster than you reading through a whole profile, plus your mental energy that you need to digest everything in this neat, condensed summary, right? So to basically summarize what happened here is we had 3 things. We had the scraper, Bardeen, that allowed us in the first place to fill in this table. The second was the integration between ChatGPT and Sheets, Google Sheets. And the third thing was the prompt, all right? The better you do each of them, the better your output. And this can be extended. You can not only scrape someone's profile, you can scrape the message history you have with someone. And maybe you don't have just one person. Maybe you have 100 people who messaged you. Maybe you have 500 people who messaged you, right? Obviously, it depends how big of a volume you want to go, right? There's also dedicated software that does it, right? So for every thinkable use case out there, there's already a software that does it or attempts at doing it. What I'm showing you here is more or less like, let's say, a playground where you can define your own processes. Because the thing with generative AI is we don't really, so every business has their own processes. And the point is, as I said in the beginning, it's the first technology where you don't have a one-size-fits-all. It's not like mobile phones. It's not like social media. Every business needs to figure out which part of the business can be automated with generative AI. All right? So this is the biggest takeaway here. This is why, especially in the beginning, when you start adopting it, it makes sense to start out with spreadsheets, because there you can define your process. There you can see, okay, you can experiment. Maybe I take this field, and then I say, hey, I saw you're just 2 connections away from me. Why don't we connect? Or you can say you're 2 connections away from me, and you have you won 10 hackathons. By the way, I just participated last year in 1. By adding, just a second, please, by adding inside the prompt your own history. I could say here, I could input here something like info about myself. And here I can paste my whole CV inside. And then I can tell it, I can tell something like this, important, find all the commonalities, if any, between my CV and the person's about section, something like this. So you can take it to any level you want. You can make this copy your brain, right? But it takes a lot of time. There was a question?
Just one question. How do you get the integration between Google Sheets and the ChatGPT? Do you use some Chrome extension? Or?
Yes. So Google Docs has their own extension store. So you go to extension up there, and it's called add-on. And then it has this option called get add-ons, and it has an own store. So I go to search apps, and I say GPT for Sheets. It's already there. There's various, actually. I see there's one for Gmail too. So you see, so these things, they pop up like mushrooms as we speak, right? The point here is, if you understand what prompting is, if you understand what context is, if you understand these basics, you instantly understand any integration because they all work the same. All of these things just put stuff into the context, okay? So this thing does nothing else than compose this prompt and send it out as the whole context to ChatGPT and bring it back. It's as if I did it by hand, but I don't. That's the point. That's the trick here. That's the trick here. Yes?
So I asked earlier if ChatGPT and Copilot are different from each other because Microsoft owns ChatGPT and it's powered by it.
Yeah.
So basically it's all the same.
Yeah.
And basically you can have it all integrated within Office as well. Do you know anything about that? Would you recommend that, or would you recommend just going for Google Documents because you've got all of these integrations?
I see the point. So technologically, they are maybe within 1% difference between each other. And I would suggest go with the tools that you're already familiar with, because that's what gives you the quickest way into production, so to speak, right? So
And like this seems kind of open source. People are making their own plugins, like Microsoft will let you pay for that kind of stuff. This actually kind of looks more exciting.
Yes, good point, good point. This is a good point. The companies have different revenue models. So Google gets its money via its ads and finances everything else. Microsoft has a bit of a different business model. So,
but then again, it might work better. I don't know.
This is up for experimentation. So the way technology works in general is you have something new that comes out, and in the beginning there are a few competitors, and there might be a kind of a big difference between them. So when we think back to 2023, beginning of 2023, ChatGPT came out. Then we had Facebook's Llama models. There was a big difference between them. So there was a visible difference between the outputs and the results. Today, not so much anymore. In a year, in 2 years, it's maybe a 0.1% difference. Technology, every new technology converges to a standard. It becomes infrastructure. And I say this infrastructure as in it's the stuff that business runs on. You wouldn't ask today, is the newest Android better than the newest iPhone? The question is rather, does it fit into my ecosystem? But it has almost like the processors are indistinguishable from each other. The memory is indistinguishable. The cameras are indistinguishable. They're even produced in the same factories probably in China. I don't know what has changed since my last update. But in general, their suppliers are also the same. So even if today there is a difference, they really quickly will catch up. So maybe now, if you mentioned Microsoft, the Microsoft ecosystem, maybe it will catch up. I mean, it will catch up, but the question is when. And does it make a tangible difference for you for the next 3, 4, 5 months to make all the switch just to figure out, okay, it's the same and I would have saved money if I had stayed with the same solution? You know, so you have to see case by case, but in general, like, look, in 15 years, work will become obsolete. Will this question matter? You know, obviously it's a long horizon, but I think it's 15 years. I think it's 15 years. In 15 years, there will be only 1% of jobs left. And most jobs that will be left will be jobs that require humans and where humans want to have humans, right? Like in hospitals, care homes, in restaurants, people want to be served. Did I answer your question?
Yes, I guess. Yeah. I mean, as I say, like all of these integrations that people are building for as plugins
Yeah.
for Pro, it looks very exciting.
Yeah.
You do not have that within Windows.
Yes. So right. So to summarize it in one sentence, go with what works best for your ecosystem because they will be equal in a few months' time. That's the answer. Yes, please.
What about data security? Because one of the big difference that at least Copilot reinforce between their service and ChatGPT service is having an open source and having the private equity of the information. So what is about data security? When we are trying, as a company, for example, when we are trying to use this kind of tools and ensuring that the information that we are putting in the system is not going to be used for public or is not going to be used as a resource for other kind of prompts or research.
Yeah. I didn't understand the part with the equity. Can you repeat that, please? You said they have equity in something, or I didn't understand correctly.
I don't remember how I put it, but the thing is that the privacy of the information is one of the things that matter for the company.
Okay. Yes.
It's like an asset.
Yes.
So if we put this in an open source system like ChatGPT, that is open source, how we ensure using this kind of tools as a company, how can we
protect
that
your
these
data?
are not going to be used, or the information that I'm putting there is not going to be used by others to use it against my company.
Yes.
So this is one of the things that Copilot is reinforced in their sales speech between the difference between ChatGPT and Copilot.
Yes. Good question. Very good question. So here we have to differentiate between two things. One is what does the company specify in its privacy policy and in its terms of service and basically end user agreement. I mean, end user agreement is I think for consumers, and for if you do B2B, I think it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's the terms of service. So basically that's the contract you enter into with the provider of these systems upon using them. So you have to read that one very carefully, and you have to see what's in there. They might say, okay, we don't share your data, we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do that. All right, that's the first thing. But then the question is, like, can you really know? If you want to be 100% sure, 1,000% sure, 10,000% sure, you have to run your own models in your own technical infrastructure, in your own basement, separated from the internet, like at the CERN research center in Switzerland, right? Because I think they have some servers that are disconnected from the internet.
Copilot offers that as a service.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So you have your own Copilot, which is based on GPT. It's all the same, except you can buy your own server. It's a monthly subscription, but it exists on.
So maybe I've exaggerated a bit with running them, in your own basement. But I mean, obviously, maybe you have a situation like that, right? And then you would buy your own servers and put an open source model, like let's say Llama, or there's hundreds, thousands of models on Hugging Face, which is a repository of models, and then you run your own system there. It's like, imagine it's a bit like running your own database. Like I think more or less the same things apply. Would you trust someone in the cloud to save your data, even though they say, we won't share the data, blah, blah, blah. Or if it's super sensitive data, would you buy your own hardware and store it in your office? So because there's similar things there, right? So they might, if they say they don't store your prompts as is, but train the models with them, even though there is no resemblance like in reality because they're being trained, maybe something leaks there, maybe some structure of the data, who knows, right? Like if you want to be 100% sure, you can run your own models on your own infrastructure. For everything else, you read what's in the terms of service, and if you like the terms, if they say, okay, we don't share it with anyone, then you can go with them. But always read the terms.
Rob.
Yes.
Hey Rob, do you think that it's possible to create some kind of bot or robot using ChatGPT or some kind of AI to trading, like cryptocurrency, or basically a trading bot?
Yes, it is possible. But the question is how good it is it? You know, that's the question. So
I can reformulate it, like, what do we have to do?
yeah, so so basically this is a question that not just, let's say, we in this circle here ask. It's a question that big banks ask that do day trading, you know, like that do a high frequency trading. So they ask this question too, and I believe it's a very big topic. So what I know from this part of technology, large language models, there is this approach called multi-agent setup, or like agentic workflows. It's again a fancy name. I don't like fancy names. I like to say what the things are. Basically what it means, I will go back to this little picture we had. We had this picture. And what's important here is this component. So here, this is an LLM. So this is an LLM that puts its output into a different LLM's context. So this means that the two LLMs communicate with each other. So imagine a ChatGPT that communicates with another ChatGPT. And then it's not just two of them, it's many of them. And they're set up like a team. They have like a manager or like a CEO, and then they have like a CFO, COO, all of these functions, and they have different roles. And let's say in the trading example, one is in charge of researching the news. The other one is in charge of, I don't know, researching the latest fluctuations in the market, and so on. And the topmost guides them. So this is kind of the latest stuff in research. There are some approaches to this. There's a thing called AutoGen by Microsoft that allows this setup, and also some more user-friendly tools. The point here being is like combining multiple humans that do work separately. I haven't heard, or I don't know if they made a breakthrough in this sense in the trading cryptocurrency or trading any kind of stock.
I think that not yet.
Not yet.
But I know that some people, mostly like IT guys, software engineers, they are creating their own bots using AI,
Exactly.
But themselves, there's not like ChatGPT that it's over there, you can pay it. It'll do.
They create it at home in their basements, and
Robert, I think that the question is like creativity or intelligence.
Yeah.
What kind of intelligence when you have to protect your trademark, right? When you want to protect your creation, your human creation, or when ChatGPT can create for you the best, but based on the old existing content.
I see.
But I can question to ChatGPT, make me the best song of the world to. But in ChatGPT, I think that don't can write the best song of the all the time. Good to me to or ChatGPT make my curriculum.
Yeah.
With the profiles, skills. I don't know that ChatGPT can do that.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. So this is, I think, a broader question around creativity, right? As in, again, it's not a question of if, but when. Okay, if we assume that in 15 years work will become obsolete, everything we ask today will be answered with yes in 15 years, right? So this is a very good question. All right, let's take one last question, and then we'll wrap up, and we can take then we can discuss how we will live our lives in 15 years over a beer. So, any questions? Please.
I'm just curious why you believe that work will become obsolete, because traditionally there have been, in the past, historically, many people who have predicted that work will be obsolete. John Maynard Keynes, Buckminster Fuller, many futurist economists, and what's happened traditionally, it's not the only input to a scenario where fairness is distributed, nobody works. Traditionally, wealth has become more concentrated in corporations and elite. Is there something different here that's going on?
It's a good observation. Wealth has been accumulated by a few. This has been the trend over the last part of known human history. At the same time, products have been cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. How much has a liter of milk cost in the year 1100? Does anyone know? It was probably a lot. I think it was, think about the costs of maintaining a cow, the cost of feeding the cow, the cost of growing everything, the time put into the work. A liter of milk costs probably, okay, I'm wildly guessing 100 euros, maybe 200 euros in work, time, energy, resources. How much does a liter of milk cost today? It costs probably even less than that, because it's subsidized by the state. So the raw production cost is below, I think, 50 cents, is below. It is anyways very, very low. And it's so low that it needs to be subsidized by the state. Now let's think about a bit about this. What does that mean? That means that the milk producer gets money out of tax money just to keep themselves at break even. Okay? So that means that it's cheaper to produce milk. So basically milk is, in a way, a part of that milk is for free, right? A part of that milk is for free. This is crazy, right? So if we look at this trend, leaving apart the accumulation of wealth, the trend continues. How much do you pay for 1 gigahertz of processing power today? Probably, if you buy a second-hand phone, the worst phone from 6 years ago on a second-hand market, how much does it cost? 20, 30 euros. That phone is probably 100 times faster than the rockets they built in the 1960s, right? And those rockets were very expensive. I mean, obviously because of obvious reasons, but the computers inside them were also very expensive. So this is not my theory. This is like there's a school of thought that goes this way, that things will become so cheap that everything can be affordable by anyone, right? And there's also a thing that's, I mean, this goes way beyond this talk. Every day, there is so much solar energy falling on the surface of the earth that humanity, or as much as humanity consumes in one whole year. All right? So what does this mean? This means at the moment there's an inefficiency of humanity to consume this energy. There's an inefficiency there. Every industrial shift, revolution, and so on has been an improvement in consuming and transforming energy. This is what every industrial revolution was about, right? So if there is so much energy falling on the face of the earth, what does this mean? One day, when we will be able to harness even the 100th part of it, okay, we will be in a place that's unimaginable for us today, right? So just give it enough time and we will get there. Obviously, there will be the wealthy will. So when I say work will be obsolete, it doesn't mean that you're not allowed to work, okay? You can still go out and be very rich, right? There will be work, but nobody needs to do it. There will be different kinds of work. There will still maybe be artists, sports people. People always love to watch sports. You wouldn't like to watch a game of robots playing, but maybe there will be some people who are into that. But let's say mainstream, the mainstream stuff will, like, people like to watch people. This is why social media picks up, or has picked up, and is still like on the rise, because people love other people. They love to talk about other people. They love what other people do. So probably in 15 years, in 50 years, in 100, in 200, 500 years, you can still make a lot of money by doing something like stuff related to people, you know? But the vast majority of people don't need to go to work and still get 2,000 euros a month. But from those 2,000 euros, a car will maybe cost 500 euros because the production efficiency is so good. It's like you have everything. You have everything, right? And the proof is the amount of energy that the sun puts on our earth. That's the proof. Like, it's there. We just haven't tapped into it, right? So this is a kind of a big topic. I don't know. Have I answered the question?
I would just say that yes, absolutely. The things you've mentioned, I can envision that, but there's always a part of society that's interested in keeping wealth and gains for themselves. And I'm not sure that human nature changes fundamentally. So,
Good question.
You're not
Okay, so
optimistic.
Let's see this. I'm very happy to take this conversation over a beer. So this is the Make Work Obsolete community. So here we have basically what I told you. We have basically the chat, introduction chat, main chat. We have a place where you can post your wins with other people. So let's say you just cut 50% of your email processing time. You can say, hey, look, I cut 50% email processing time, and you can keep each other accountable. We have these two big course content on generative AI intro, and then the automation stuff. So here in the first part, we have intro to Gen AI, text processing tools, marketing and social media tools, right? So basically, if we go to marketing and social media, writing blog articles, basically here we have also a video content that's filled up step by step. And yes, right. So you will find everything there. I will leave this here. And this was everything from my side. I invite you to the bar. I will leave this on for a while so that everyone can scan it if you are interested. Thanks for coming, and I would love to talk to you in person here.